No one likes us, right? So everyone in our locker room, that's the only type of people that we have that we can lean on. And we got to be better in that area. We have got to stay disciplined. We have to stay focused. We need to get consistent, and we got to lean on each other. And I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands, but
the Indiana Fever are in a disastrous situation right now. They're in an absolutely disastrous situation.
The Indiana Fever are no longer just struggling on the scoreboard. They're unraveling behind closed doors. And the person who confirmed it all? Sophie Cunningham. In a brutally honest post-game press conference, Sophie didn't dodge the hard truths. She came out and said what every fan feared but couldn't prove. This team is broken. She described the Fever locker room as being full of different islands, a powerful metaphor that instantly revealed a fractured culture. These aren't just minor disagreements between teammates. This is a full-blown disconnect, where bonds have shattered and players are no longer operating as one unit. And the timing couldn't be worse. Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's brightest new star, isn't just carrying the team in points, she's carrying them emotionally. And Sophie's words confirmed that no one's helping her shoulder the weight. The team is splintered, and instead of closing ranks around their most valuable player, they're floating apart in all directions. It's no longer about basketball, it's about a toxic culture eating itself alive. Sophie, a veteran voice who's seen it all, sounded the alarm for anyone still believing the Fever were just in a temporary slump. This isn't about growing pains. This is about implosion. And unless something drastic changes, this locker room might drag down the very star who was supposed to lift them up. If you thought Caitlin Clark's battles ended when the final buzzer sounded, think again. What Sophie Cunningham revealed wasn't just an internal spat. It exposed that Caitlin Clark is in a war zone with no allies. On the hardwood, we've seen her take brutal hits, body checks, elbows to the ribs, and flagrant fouls that somehow never get whistled. But what's even more disturbing is what happens after. No teammate rushes in. No one defends her. No one sends a message that their star deserves protection. And now, thanks to Sophie, we know why. It's because this team isn't a team at all. There's no solidarity, no shared mission. Just players on their own islands, prioritizing their agendas while their franchise centerpiece is being physically and emotionally drained. She's not just playing against opposing defenses. She's battling apathy from the very women she should be able to lean on. Sophie's words peeled back the curtain on a locker room devoid of leadership and unity. Caitlin was brought in to be the spark of a new era, but instead, she's been left to navigate an emotional minefield. When your generational player is walking into games knowing no one has her back, that's not just poor team culture. That's organizational neglect. And it's slowly crushing one of the most promising careers the league has ever seen. When Sophie Cunningham uttered the phrase, "We're on different islands," it wasn't just a slip of the tongue, it was a bombshell. That one line landed like a grenade in the middle of the Indiana Fever franchise. It told fans everything they needed to know about why this team, loaded with talent and promise, continues to spiral. This wasn't a vague hint at chemistry issues or a soft critique of effort. It was a raw, transparent admission that the players are emotionally and mentally separated. And the timing couldn't be more tragic. At the very moment Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation player, is trying to pull Indiana into relevance, her teammates are drifting away from each other. That different islands metaphor confirms there's no communication, no trust, and no team spirit. Everyone's focused on themselves while the locker room rots from within. It's not just about missed rotations or slow defensive closeouts anymore. It's about a fractured identity. There is no shared fight, no backbone. The fact that it took Sophie's brutal honesty to bring this to light only makes things worse. Because now it's not speculation, it's confirmation. This team is splintered, rudderless, and leaving their most important player to carry a burden meant for many. When veterans like Sophie start acknowledging the dysfunction publicly, it means the damage is no longer fixable in silence. And if the Fever don't act now, they're not just risking a bad season. They're risking Caitlin Clark checking out for good. There's a certain kind of heartbreak that comes from watching someone give everything and receive nothing in return. And that's exactly what's happening to Caitlin Clark. Night after night, she lays her body on the line, absorbing hits that would sideline most players, all while trying to elevate a franchise that seems unwilling or unable to meet her halfway. Sophie Cunningham's candid confession didn't just highlight the division within the locker room. It emphasized the absence of any real leadership. The kind of leadership that steps up when your star player gets blindsided. The kind that grabs teammates in a huddle and demands effort, protection, and respect. But instead of unity, what we see is indifference. Caitlin gets knocked down, and her teammates don't even flinch. It's not just sad, it's humiliating. The body language says it all. Heads drop. Players walk away. There's no rallying around her. No fire. No fight. Sophie even admitted that the team is failing to lean on each other when it matters most. Translation: Caitlin is alone. Not just in the stat sheets, where she leads in scoring and assists, but in the very soul of the team. And that kind of abandonment doesn't just hurt, it destroys. A team without unity is a team that doesn't win. But worse, a team that doesn't fight for its superstar is a team that doesn't deserve one. And right now, Caitlin Clark is being failed by the very people who should be lifting her up. The Fever's collapse isn't just about poor chemistry, it's about poor choices. And the worst of them? Relying on veterans who brought more baggage than value. Sophie Cunningham's honesty opened the floodgates, but when you look deeper, two names keep surfacing at the heart of the chaos: DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard. These were supposed to be seasoned pros, brought in to anchor a young team and support Caitlin Clark's transition into superstardom. Instead, they've become lightning rods for dysfunction. Bonner, given a max contract in one of the most baffling moves of the offseason, didn't just shoot poorly, she fractured the locker room. Analysts have flat out asked whether the Fever cut her not because of performance, but to stop her from completely poisoning the team dynamic. It's no coincidence that the locker room started splintering the moment Bonner walked in, and only started healing the moment she walked out. Then there's Natasha Howard, whose lack of urgency on the court has fans and content creators furious. The moments speak for themselves. Caitlin gets hammered in open space, Aaliyah Boston takes a brutal foul, Sophie gets shoved, and Natasha? She stands motionless, emotionless, or worse, checking on opponents before her teammates. She's been caught more than once showing more concern for rival players than for the women wearing the same jersey. How do you build trust when the people beside you won't even pick you up when you hit the floor? You don't. And that's why this locker room is in ruins. Leadership isn't just about experience, it's about investment. And it's clear Bonner and Howard weren't invested in anything but their own narratives. Their presence didn't guide the team, it divided it. When Sophie Cunningham took to the podium and laid bare the internal rot within the Indiana Fever, she wasn't just pointing fingers. She was calling out an entire system of favoritism that's tearing the team apart. What fans have long suspected was quietly brewing under the surface is now undeniable. This team doesn't operate on merit, it runs on politics. Take Natasha Howard, for instance. Despite her visibly disengaged play, lack of hustle, and embarrassing detachment during key moments, she continues to rack up heavy minutes. Why? The answer, according to fans and insiders, lies with head coach Stephanie White, who coached Howard in a prior stint. It's not about who earns it, it's about who you know. That kind of favoritism corrodes trust. It sends a chilling message to players who fight every night to earn their spot. Politics will always trump performance. And it goes deeper than just rotations. Sophie essentially admitted the team is stuck in cliques, with players aligning themselves along personal loyalties instead of professional unity. You've got Caitlin Clark, Lexi Hull, and Sophie on one island, and Howard, Carlson, and others on another. Aaliyah Boston, one of the team's key pieces, is reportedly stuck in the middle, caught between friendships, pressure, and confusion. It's high school drama in a professional setting, and it's sabotaging the entire mission. Players like Sophie, who are actually trying to hold things together, find themselves benched while others dance for TikTok clout or joke around after blowout losses. It's a team in name only, held together by optics and contracts, not by respect or common goals. And the worst part, Caitlin Clark is smack in the middle of it, paying the price for everyone else's lack of professionalism. What started as chemistry issues has now morphed into something far darker, an identity crisis tearing the Indiana Fever apart from the inside. Sophie Cunningham's raw honesty pulled the curtain back on a team that's no longer just disconnected. They're at war with themselves. Multiple analysts have now laid out what they call locker room islands, with players literally grouped into social factions. On one side, you have Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hull, hardworking, intense competitors trying to keep this sinking ship afloat. On the other, Natasha Howard, Kelsey Mitchell, and Sydney Colson, seen as the clique more interested in inside jokes, dances, and off-court antics than actually winning games. Aaliyah Boston, once thought to be the team's emotional center, is reportedly stuck in the middle, conflicted, unsure of where to stand, and slowly being pulled in both directions. Even worse, there's talk that these divisions might be following racial lines, an accusation that no one wants to say out loud, but insiders are whispering with increasing urgency. Terms like locker room race war are being tossed around by analysts, signaling a divide that cuts much deeper than basketball. And when a locker room is split not just by playstyle or personality, but by cultural undercurrents, you're no longer talking about a chemistry issue. You're looking at a full-blown implosion. Players are no longer just choosing sides based on who they trust, but based on where they feel safe. Caitlin Clark didn't sign up for this. She was supposed to lead a team on a championship journey, not tiptoe around emotional landmines planted by front office misfires and unchecked egos. If this identity crisis isn't resolved soon, it won't just cost the Fever wins, it'll cost them their future. When Caitlin Clark was drafted first overall by the Indiana Fever, it was hailed as the beginning of a new era. A once dormant franchise had just landed the most electrifying player women's basketball had seen in decades. Fans imagined a culture of excellence forming around her, fast, modern, and united. But what did Clark actually walk into? A locker room splintered by personal agendas, a coaching staff running outdated schemes, and a front office more focused on optics than building a winning formula. What was supposed to be a championship culture became a circus. Instead of shooters and speed to match her style, she was given aging veterans, ego-driven personalities, and a coach stuck in the past. Stephanie White's offense is a snail-paced system that neutralizes Clark's biggest strengths: her creativity, range, and tempo. Instead of being empowered to lead, she's stranded at the arc while her teammates chuck contested shots and jog back on defense. It's not just disappointing, it's insulting. Caitlin Clark didn't come to Indiana to babysit dysfunction. She came to compete for banners, and the front office's refusal to prioritize her needs, whether through recruiting young talent or enforcing accountability, feels like betrayal. She was the golden ticket, not just for the Fever, but for the entire league. But now, the brightest star in women's basketball is being dulled by teammates who don't protect her, coaches who misuse her, and executives who fail her. This isn't just a team in a slump. This is a franchise squandering its once-in-a-generation opportunity. Caitlin Clark was supposed to be the foundation. Instead, she's become the glue, trying to hold broken pieces together. And no matter how strong she is, even glue cracks under enough pressure. At the center of this chaos sits Stephanie White, the coach who was handed Caitlin Clark, a generational Ferrari, and decided to drive it like a minivan with no gas. Her offensive system is clunky, outdated, and completely incompatible with Caitlin's game. While other coaches around the league are evolving, running pace-and-space systems that highlight their stars, White is Clark trapped in a scheme straight out of the early 2000s WNBA playbook. Possession after possession ends with Clark dribbling in circles as the shot clock dies, or teammates throwing up junk because the spacing is broken and the movement non-existent. This isn't just bad strategy, it's system failure. Worse yet, it's intentional. It's a deliberate choice to ignore the modern game in favor of a rigid structure that smothers creativity, drains energy, and neutralizes their most valuable asset. But White isn't alone in this disaster. The front office, Amber Cox and Kelly Krauskopf, deserves just as much blame. They've repeatedly failed to scout overseas talent, avoided acquiring role players who fit Clark's style, and instead chased PR-friendly names that look good in headlines but crumble in real time. While the Las Vegas Aces and New York Liberty stack their rosters with hungry young stars and elite defenders, Indiana gave Caitlin Clark aging legs, fragile egos, and TikTok distractions. They built a team for attention, not contention. And now they're hiding behind White, letting her take all the bullets while they duck responsibility. Fans see it. Players feel it. And even though Caitlin hasn't said it out loud, her body language screams the truth. She's frustrated, isolated, and completely unsupported. This isn't just poor planning, it's sabotage. And if it doesn't change soon, Indiana won't just lose games. They'll lose Caitlin. Despite all the dysfunction, fractured relationships, and strategic misfires, one thing remains constant. Caitlin Clark continues to show up and carry this franchise on her back. Night in and night out, she plays through brutal fouls, relentless pressure, and the emotional toll of being the face of a broken organization. She leads the league in assists, shatters viewership records, sells out arenas, and handles the relentless media spotlight with professionalism and poise. And through all of it, every hard foul, every eye roll from a teammate, every missed rotation that leaves her exposed, she keeps competing. She keeps fighting. But even the strongest shoulders can only carry so much. And the cracks are starting to show. Her face after games speaks volumes. The frustration, the exhaustion, the disappointment. She's doing her part and then some. But how much longer can she keep doing it alone? Sophie Cunningham's explosive comments didn't just confirm what fans feared. They served as a last warning. If the Fever don't wake up, if the front office doesn't build around Caitlin's strengths, if the coach doesn't evolve, if her teammates don't start fighting for her instead of beside her, then the damage will be irreversible. Caitlin Clark was meant to launch Indiana into a golden era. Instead, she's been left to triage a disaster she didn't cause. And here's the terrifying truth. If Indiana loses her trust, if they push her too far, this won't just be a failed season. It'll be remembered as the moment the WNBA's brightest star began looking for the exit. This isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about legacy. And the Fever are running out of time to prove they deserve to be part of Caitlin Clark's